హైదరాబాద్ నగరం ఎడ్యుకేషన్ హబ్ అన్నారు ప్రముఖ రచయిత అంజలి గుప్తా. విద్యావకాశాలు, విద్యా విధానంపై అంజలి గుప్తా రాసిన ది డెక్కన్ ట్రైల్బ్లేజర్స్, ది ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఐకాన్స్ ఆఫ్ హైదరాబాద్ అనే పుస్తకాన్ని మార్కెట్లోకి విడుదల చేశారు. శనివారం హైదరాబాద్లో ఈ బుక్ను రిలీజ్ చేశారు. విద్యా విధానంలో ప్రమాణాలు తగ్గిపోయి విద్యార్థులపై ఒత్తిడి పెరుగుతుందని ప్రముఖ రచయిత అంజలి గుప్తా అన్నారు. హైదరాబాద్లోని తాజ్ కృష్ణాలో జరిగిన కార్యక్రమంలో అంజలి గుప్తా రాసిన ది డెక్కన్ ట్రైల్బ్లేజర్స్, ది ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఐకాన్ ఆఫ్ హైదరాబాద్ అనే పుస్తకాన్ని ఆవిష్కరించారు. ఈ పుస్తకావిష్కరణ కార్యక్రమంలో ఇప్లు వీసీ ప్రొఫెసర్ సురేష్ కుమార్, డాక్టర్ విక్రమ్ పాటిల్, ఏడీజీపీ రవిగుప్తా, విద్యావేత్తలు హేమా సుబ్రహ్మణ్యన్ పాల్గొన్నారు. నేటి ఒత్తిడి ప్రపంచంలో సమస్యలను ఎదుర్కొని విజేతలుగా నిలిచేందుకు ఈ పుస్తకం దోహదపడుతుందని కార్యక్రమంలో పాల్గొన్న ప్రముఖులు అన్నారు.
I want to shine a light in my talk today about the hopes and aspirations of our teenagers, of our adolescents, the young people in our country today, by actually going through the prism of the most tragic consequence of when that hope is extinguished, when those aspirations are crushed. And that is, of course, the terrible tragedy of suicide.
As Vice Chancellor of the English and Foreign Language University, I make it a point to give time to people. If they have some problem, I talk to them, even if it is for 30 seconds. What exactly is your problem? I have 30 seconds for you. You tell me what's your problem. Most of the problems will be solved if you give an opportunity for the person to express. I take this opportunity to request each one of you sitting in this hall to write something. If it is possible, write a book each year. If it is not possible, at least one book in your lifetime. It could be on something. Each one of us is gifted with some talent, the hidden talent of expressing. If you can do that, definitely you get a lot of relief. You get some kind of satisfaction. If we understand the contribution of a teacher and then you produce a book like this, I'm sure this will go a very long way in taking this country to a higher level. I hope Ms. Anjali Gupta will come out with many more such books.
గత 30 ఏళ్లుగా విద్యా విధానంపై ఉన్న అవగాహన, అనుభవంతో విద్యార్థులు, ఉపాధ్యాయులకు ఉపయోగపడే విధంగా ది డెక్కన్ ట్రైల్బ్లేజర్స్ పుస్తకం రాస్తామని రచయిత అంజలి గుప్తా అన్నారు.
My book, The Deccan Trailblazers, Education Icons of Hyderabad, is about chronicling the journeys of some of the greats in this field of education here in the city. I have known some of them very personally over a period of 30 years, and I have worked with them as well. My book tries to capture the essence of what made them successful, why they made a difference in the children's lives, and what are the reasons for making some of the schools very successful. The icons who are featured in the book range from CEOs to principals to NGOs and to individuals who are trying to make a difference in the life of every child, one day at a time, and they're trying to give them experiences which are very important to make them into great individuals. My book is actually divided into 3 sections. The exclusive trendsetters, which features the CEOs and the principals. They dared to dream, teachers who became principals, and the unsung heroes. Those are the people who are working with children without wanting the limelight. So basically my book is all about the educationists, no doubt, but how they're making a difference in every child's life. And that becomes very important because I've been an educationist myself for several years, and I feel that a teacher touches the life of a child like no one else. So my book tries to find out about what makes them successful, what are the reasons for making schools different from the others, those which exist in this world, and especially in this city where we have so much of competition amongst schools, we just have to find out what are the reasons for making some of the schools not, I wouldn't say better than the others, but a little different from the others. So my book, The Deccan Trailblazers, Education Icons of Hyderabad, started off as a personal tribute to some of the greats, but I have taken it further to chronicle their journeys, and I hope a lot of other people will be able to get inspired and learn from what I have written, and after reading about these icons in my book.
ప్రముఖ రచయిత్రి అంజలి గుప్తా రాసిన ది డెక్కన్ ట్రైల్ బ్లేజర్స్ పుస్తకావిష్కరణకు ముఖ్య అతిథిగా విచ్చేసిన గ్లోబల్ హెల్త్ పరిశోధకులు డాక్టర్ విక్రమ్ పాటిల్ విద్యా విధానంలో మార్పులు, మానసిక సమస్యలను ఎలా పరిష్కరించుకోవాలని అంశంపై సలహాలు, సూచనలు అందించారు.
First, to give you an idea how social factors determine mental health.
First of all, I think it's important to point out the scale of the human tragedy of youth suicide in our country today. Most people may not be aware that the single most important cause of death in young Indians today is suicide. Let's just pause for a moment and think about that. The number one cause of death in our country in young people is when they take their own lives. Obviously, this is a matter that should be the single most important concern in our country. In our social context, it seems to me that the most important reason that young people are taking their lives is because of the enormous sense of loss of hope when the aspirations they have in their daily lives are not being met, either by the education system, by employment, or by very rigid social ideas about, for example, what kind of jobs people should take, also about what kinds of relationships they should get into, which are coming in the way of their hopes and dreams.
How do you think the education system in our country, with all its pressures and the pressure to perform from parents as well as from schools, how can that be mitigated?
I think one of the first biggest challenges for most parents is getting their kids into colleges, for example, or into schools that they see as being desirable because the academic results are good. The number of those schools and colleges is so limited and the demand is so huge that there is almost like a pressure cooker kind of situation with young people competing with each other to get into these environments. So the first thing to do is to create much better quality schooling at scale so that the competition to get into a few schools and colleges is reduced. The second thing also is to transform our schools. I will really be talking a little bit more in my lecture about what we've been doing in Bihar, for example, where we are trying to change the social environment of schools so that young people have a sense of belonging, that there is a sense of respect in the schools, and there's a sense of safety in those schools. Doing so, we have been able to show that there is a dramatic reduction in violence in schools and also an improvement in mental health. Finally, making schools places where we can teach the essential skills to deal with disappointment. Problem-solving skills, for example, are critical to help young people deal with the everyday disappointments that they're going to face, rather than acting impulsively in ways that can actually harm themselves. And finally, within schools, to make counseling services available, counseling to help those young people who are troubled, who have difficult personal lives, and who need additional help in order to deal with those distressing emotional experiences.
Thank you, Professor Patel. I am glad that you have focused on this very important area of life skills. At the moment, our schools impart academic skills, and then they throw the children out in the big bad world to face all the problems, including the rat race in which all of us are engaged in one form or another. And I think you might like to focus more on resilience. How can we build resilience among our youngsters?
Promotion is always better than cure. If we can promote and prevent mental health problems and difficulties, we not only prevent mental illness, but actually we also create better academic outcomes. I think we need to see that the emotional and mental development of adolescents is inseparable from their achievements in school. They are actually completely interrelated. When you are struggling with your studies, you're likely to have emotional difficulties. When you have emotional difficulties, it is harder to concentrate and do well in your studies. It's a vicious cycle. And so we must see these as being inseparable. And a very key element of that is to make sure that schools are not only imparting education, as you rightly point out, but making them environments in which the well-being of adolescents is put right at the top of the agenda. Not only what they study and what marks they get, but actually how happy they are, how well adjusted they are, and whether they have the essential skills in life
whether you're teaching them those essential skills in order to deal with the everyday challenges they are likely to face at every single step of their lives, from making a decision about what careers they choose, dealing with disappointments when they don't get into IIT, and making a successful life for themselves in whatever employment they find.
Many people believe, or used to believe, that mental health disorders are a luxury which countries like India cannot afford. I think that's a myth that needs to be exploded. We have the same mental health disorders which the first world countries have.
Mental health problems are just as prevalent, if not more prevalent, in some sections of our society as they are in the West. They are not necessarily the same as the clinical disorders, though. Whenever people talk of mental health problems, the first thing they think about is psychiatry, psychiatric hospitals, and medication. And I want us to get away from that kind of reduction. In fact, mental health problems are very common. They range in severity. And almost every single family in this country will have at least one or more people who are affected by a mental health problem, not necessarily a clinical condition that needs psychiatric care, but certainly one that needs some kind of care. I think in that respect, one of the most important initiatives we've been taking over the last decade is using community health workers, lay counselors, teachers, people who work outside the formal medical establishment to provide especially psychological and social interventions for mental health problems. And as you know, Colonel Goel, in medicine, one of the most important ways to prove that this is an effective approach is to run these large studies called randomized control trials. And we've run now many such trials demonstrating time and again that these community health workers with appropriate training and supervision can deliver psychological treatments for a whole range of mental health conditions, ranging all the way from autism to depression, anxiety, alcohol problems, and psychosis.
You see, during the Second World War, Churchill had said that the war is far too important a business to be left to the generals alone. Similarly, you can't leave mental health to psychiatrists alone. The community has to assume ownership of these initiatives. And it is only when the community assumes ownership that we'll succeed. And I think Professor Patel is the ideal person to comment on that.
Why? Because every one of us has mental health. In the same way that every one of us has physical health. Isn't it interesting, when we use the word mental health, the first thought that I'm sure most of the viewers would have thought about is mental illness. But actually, mental health is a positive attribute. It's an asset. If you think about everything that makes us human, it isn't the hair on our heads, it isn't our skin, it isn't our blood. It is the way we feel, the way we think, and the way we interact with the environment. And that, of course, is mental health. And I think, therefore, it is very important for every member of the community to be aware of their own mental health, to do the things that are needed to protect and promote it, and most importantly, to reach out to those that they can clearly see are going through a difficult time, and reach out to them with compassion, with love, and with care, which I believe in itself is one of the most potent mental health interventions that we have.